Good morning. I've thought a long time about starting to show you some of my sourdough recipes, primarily because I didn't want to have to show you how to make a starter. I have failed every time I've tried to make a starter, and the only way I actually had a successful starter is a good friend of mine gave me theirs that was healthy and ready to go. So my advice to you is don't bother trying to get your own starter going. Get somebody else's that works for them and you can continue from that point on. Talk to them about how they feed and care for it and do the same thing. So I am going to start making a biscuit today. This biscuit is absolutely delicious. It's one of the best ones we've ever had. So I'm starting with a cup of flour into my food processor. And I'm using the food processor because I found the faster I make this, the fluffier and richer they are. But you could use just your hands and a cheese grater. And I'll explain where the cheese grater comes in just a moment. And now I'm taking 2 teaspoons of baking powder. There you go, they're in the food processor right now. And 1 teaspoon of table salt, not a kosher salt. I found the kosher salts don't work as well in this dish. So 1 teaspoon of table salt. There we go. And I like using a large container of salt because then it's easier to just scoop out of the container and measure. If you wanted to treat yourself with a one-task item, get yourself a salt cellar. I have a salt cellar. It's the best thing ever. But in this case, I'm just going directly from the large container of salt. So now I'm going to put the lid on my food processor. And give this a quick whirl. And that makes sure the salt and baking powder all get fluffed in together. Now for the secret. One stick of frozen butter. And frozen, you can use unfrozen. This is where the cheese grater comes in. You would grate the cheese into your flour mixture. But in the case of my food processor, I am literally just taking the entire stick and dropping it into the food processor. And check and make sure how broken up it is. Sometimes the whole stick will get stuck. Almost there. And I'm listening for the sound to change. The frozen butter makes a really hard clacking sound against the edges of the container. We want this to be broken up and well mixed to the flour. Okay, just check now. So I'm going to start breaking up these larger pieces by hand, but it's very hard frozen butter, and that's the key I've found. If I use room temperature butter, it works, but I find that the biscuits don't rise as well. All right, so there we go. And you just want to use a normal blade on the food processor. I'm using the dough blade today, and I decided that's a bad choice because it's not cutting the butter. But now we've got only little tiny pieces of butter in the mix. All right, I'm just going to let this mix one more time. And there we go. So now all we have is these balls. They're about this size. You could go a little smaller, but I would like to go with this. And now I've got a cup of unfed sourdough starter. And I'm just going to pour it right into the food processor here. Come on, in you go. Try and get all of it in there. I'm just scraping down the cup with my fingers. You could use a spoon or a rubber spatula, but hey, I'm using my fingers. There we go. And so you want unfed sourdough starter because you don't want the yeasts to be active until you get them in this bowl. This bowl, they'll eat them themselves, the flour, and start being activated in this dough, and that's what you're looking for in the oven. So now I'm just going to mix that sourdough starter into the flour. And it's fairly quick, very, very quick. If you were doing this by hand, it takes a little longer, and what you're hoping for in the doing it by hand is everything to come together and be consistently moist. And the sound of the food processor is stopping, is changing on me there. I'm just going to make sure that it's getting all the flour from the edges. So I'm just kind of moving my fingers around in the bowl. It's not forming a whole ball yet. It will form a whole ball. It will be like all of a sudden, wow, it's just one big ball. And that's the way it's going to be with your hands too, is there's going to be lots of loose flour and then all of a sudden it's going to come together. And the sound of the food processor changed there, so let's check it out. And voila, we have a single ball. Like I said, it just all of a sudden comes together as a single ball of dough. So I'm just going to take my bowl off the food processor here. And we'll be back in 1 second. Okay, so you're going to want to move quickly at this point. I'm going to take my cutter out of the food processor here, scrape it off, and we're going to just tip this ball of dough onto a cutting board. You can go lightly floured. I find that that adds too much flour to the cutting board. So I just move very quickly. And the reason you want to move quickly is because as this warms up, the more it warms up, the more you're losing fluffiness from the starter in the oven. So now I've just got my bowl of dough here and I'm quickly patting it with my hand. If you wanted to make cheddar biscuits or cheddar chive biscuits or bacon, once you have this nice and flat, you would sprinkle some of that on this upper surface right here and then fold. You're gonna have to fold even without the cheddar and the bacon. And this makes nice layers in your biscuits. So I folded from top to bottom and we've got a much skinnier little patty now, and I've patted it down again, and now I'm folding from right to left. And you want to do this fold at least 5 times, if not more. And I'm going to scrape it off the board here because I should have picked it up fully. There we go. And this is very sticky. And now top to bottom again. So that's 3. Now I'm just going to do the next one in my hand. 4. And I'm just going between my hands and I'm just clapping my hands with the big section of dough in it. And this will be the last one. And we're going to go, I think we want to make it as, there we go. So now I have a tube. I'm going to flatten it down on the cutting board. I'm going to constantly roll it so it doesn't stick. It's very important that it doesn't stick. And we want to make it about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, depending on how big you want your biscuits. Okay, peeling it off the board now. There we go. I'm going to still pat between my hands a bit. There we go. Now I have a fairly long strip, and I'm going to grab my cutter. All right, here's my cutter. It's just a single ring. I have a 6 biscuit, I think it's pentagon. There are 5 sides. Anyways, 6 biscuit pentagonal cutter that they're all connected to each other, and I can cut them out all at once, but I can't find that one today, so I'm just going to use this circular one. And all I'm going to do is press this circle into the biscuits, twist a little bit, and peel away the edges. Fold them back onto the rest of it. And there we have a perfectly round biscuit. All right, get a cookie sheet here and we'll cut the rest of these up. So here I have just a standard flat cookie sheet. You can use any cookie sheet really, but I'm putting a sill pad on it, which is a silicone pad that keeps things from sticking. It just makes life a little easier for cleanup later. And I'm just going to place my biscuits on that as I cut them. Where's my circle here? Making it the right width again and cut. And this recipe will make anywhere from 6 to 8, 6 to 9 biscuits. I'm actually picking up the biscuit now and getting the cutter in my hand. There we go, smooth it out like that, and then I'm just going to drop it right on the cookie sheet. Not the best way to do a biscuit, but hey, I like my 6 cutter better. I'm going to put that first one back in because this one's a little thicker. And I want them to be the same thickness throughout, because that means they cook at the same rate. You should have your oven preheated before doing this. The oven should be at 425. If you do not preheat your oven, the biscuits may cook unevenly. So I'm just twisting now, which is what I forgot to do the last time there, and peeling the excess dough away. These are probably going to be way too large, but it's just me and my husband, so here we go. The last biscuit, I'm just going to do this one in the... There we go. Just make sure it fills this cutter. Just smack it. There we go. 3 biscuits is what we came out with today. These are very large. You should actually probably bake these the first time you do this at a much smaller size. It's much better for consistency. There you go. Put one at the end there, one there. Okay, they're all very separated. And now these are going to go into the oven, and we'll be back in 20 minutes is how long it takes to bake these. And I found that 20 minutes is exactly how long it takes. I thought my oven baked hot, so I checked them early and it never worked, and 20 minutes is precisely what it takes. All right, here we have our biscuits. They are nice and crisp. They're huge, but I knew they were going to be huge. These would make great breakfast biscuits now. We could cut these in half and have a sausage with them. But what I'm going to do is just cut one open for you so you can see the inside and how light and flaky they are. There we go. Isn't that just lovely? These taste absolutely amazing. I hope you make them. Let me know if you do. Don't forget to click subscribe, press the like button, and send me any comments.